Every financial collapse in history left behind the same forensic signature. The wealthy got wealthier. The middle class got destroyed. Not because the middle class spent recklessly, not because they bought yachts or private jets or things that were obviously beyond their means, because they spent their entire lives paying for things they called necessary that were quietly consuming the capital that should have been building their future. Here's the brutal truth that a century of household spending forensics reveals. The middle class does not fail because of big, obvious mistakes. It fails because of 12 specific expenses that feel completely responsible, sound entirely reasonable, and are systematically defended as necessities by the industries that profit from selling them. And the most dangerous thing about each one is not the cost in isolation. It is the cost compounded across decades of paying for something that was never as necessary as it felt. Here is what the forensic record actually shows. The first expense is the one sitting in your driveway right now, a new car purchased with financing every 3 to 5 years. The average new car in the United States costs approximately $48,000 in 2026. The average car loan carries an interest rate of between 7 and 9% for borrowers with good credit. Over a 60-month loan term, that interest adds approximately $10,000 to the total cost of the vehicle. The moment you drive a new car off the dealership lot, it loses between 9 and 11% of its value. By the end of the first year, it has lost approximately 20%. By year 3, it has lost approximately 40%. You're financing a rapidly depreciating asset at 9% interest and calling it transportation. Transportation is necessary. A $48,000 depreciating asset financed at 9% is not transportation. It is a consumption decision wearing the mask of necessity. A 3-year-old version of the same vehicle costs approximately half as much, depreciates far more slowly, and requires the same fuel and insurance to operate. The Bureau of Labor Statistics consumer expenditure data shows that transportation is the second largest expense category for American households after housing. It consumes an average of 17% of household income. In households that replace vehicles every 3 to 5 years with financing, that percentage climbs significantly higher. The wealth that leaves through the vehicle decision alone, compounded across a 40-year working life, is staggering in a way that most people never calculate because the monthly payment feels manageable. Monthly payments always feel manageable. That is precisely how they are designed. The second expense is the one with the most sophisticated marketing infrastructure ever built around a single product category. Brand new smartphones replaced on the 2-year upgrade cycle. The average premium smartphone costs between $900 and $1,400 in 2026. The 2-year upgrade cycle, which the telecommunications industry has engineered with extraordinary precision through subsidy structures, trade-in programs, and deliberate software obsolescence means the average consumer spends between $400 and $700 per year on smartphone hardware alone. Over a 40-year adult life that is between $16,000 and $28,000 spent on devices whose primary function could be performed by a device 2 or 3 generations older at a fraction of the cost. A smartphone from 3 years ago makes calls, sends messages, runs every major application, and accesses the internet with no meaningful functional difference for the vast majority of use cases. The difference between it and the current model is aesthetic and marginal. The marketing infrastructure that convinces you otherwise is one of the most expensive and effective ever constructed. Apple alone spends approximately $2 billion annually on advertising, designed to make last year's device feel inadequate. The third expense is the one that feels the most virtuous. Premium grocery shopping at specialty retailers for products with identical nutritional profiles to their conventional equivalents. The markup on organic, artisanal, locally sourced, and specialty branded food products compared to their conventional equivalents ranges from 30 to 300% depending on the category. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that the nutritional difference between organic and conventional produce for most categories is not statistically significant enough to justify the price premium for the majority of consumers. The middle class spends significantly more per calorie than necessary, not because the food is better in ways that translate to health outcomes, but because the branding, the store environment, and the cultural signaling around specialty food retailers make the premium feel like responsible self-care. Self-care is necessary. Paying 300% more for identical nutrition is a luxury that the marketing industry has successfully reframed as a necessity. The fourth expense is the one that the financial services industry has spent decades making feel mandatory. Full coverage insurance on assets that do not justify the premium. Insurance is genuinely necessary for catastrophic risks that you cannot self-insure. A house fire, a serious automobile accident, a major medical event, these are risks whose potential cost exceeds your ability to absorb them from savings. Insurance against those risks is rational and necessary. But the insurance industry does not stop at catastrophic coverage. It sells coverage for everything. extended warranties on appliances that statistically fail after the warranty expires anyway, collision coverage on vehicles whose market value is lower than the annual premium cost plus deductible, life insurance on children who generate no income, travel insurance on trips whose cancellation cost is manageable from savings, credit card payment protection insurance that costs more per year than the debt it covers. Each individual policy sounds reasonable in isolation. Together, they represent a systematic extraction of premium dollars for risks that a household with adequate savings could absorb without insurance. The middle class pays for insurance against inconvenience. The wealthy self insure against inconvenience and pay only for catastrophic coverage. That distinction, compounded across decades, represents a significant wealth transfer from the middle class to the insurance industry for protection that was never genuinely necessary. The fifth expense is the one that generates the most social pressure. Private school education for children in markets where high-quality public alternatives exist. Private school tuition in major metropolitan areas ranges from $15,000 to $60,000 per year per child. For a family with 2 children in private school from kindergarten through 12th grade, the total expenditure can exceed $1 million. The research on educational outcomes from private versus high-quality public schools is far less conclusive than the private school marketing suggests. A 2019 Stanford University study found that after controlling for socioeconomic factors, the academic achievement gap between private and high-quality public school students was not statistically significant in most markets. What private school reliably provides is social network access, which has genuine economic value, and the feeling of doing the maximum possible for your children, which has genuine emotional value. But neither of those benefits is a necessity in the financial sense. They are premium products in the experience economy that the middle class purchases at the cost of the compounding capital that would have provided their children with genuine financial security. The sixth expense is the one that has the longest history of being called an investment while functioning as pure consumption. Annual international vacations financed on credit. Travel is genuinely valuable as a human experience. Exposure to different cultures, languages, and environments produces measurable cognitive and emotional benefits that are well documented in psychological literature. But travel financed on credit at 18 to 24% interest is not an experience. It is an experience plus a tax on that experience paid monthly for the following 18 months. A 1-week international vacation costing $5,000, financed on a credit card at 20% interest, paid off over 18 months, costs approximately $5,700. The additional $700 purchased nothing. It was a financing fee for the privilege of experiencing Paris before you could afford Paris. The middle class takes on average 1.8 international trips per year, according to the U.S. Travel Association. The percentage of those trips financed on credit that carries a balance is significant enough to represent a material ongoing wealth drain that compounds invisibly alongside every other expense on this list. The seventh expense is the one with the most powerful identity attachment. Living in the most expensive neighborhood you can qualify for rather than the most financially strategic one. Housing is necessary. The specific house in the specific neighborhood at the maximum price your lender will approve is not. The mortgage approval process is designed to tell you the maximum you can borrow, not the optimal amount you should borrow. Those two numbers are almost never the same. The maximum mortgage a lender will approve typically consumes 28 to 35% of gross income on housing alone. Financial independence research consistently shows that the households that build significant wealth most reliably keep housing costs below 25% of gross income and deploy the difference into productive assets. The difference between a house at the top of your approval range and a house at 75% of your approval range, invested in low-cost index funds over 30 years, can represent the difference between financial dependence and genuine financial independence at retirement. But the social pressure to live in the best neighborhood you can access, to send children to the best school district, to hold an address that signals arrival, is among the most powerful financial forces operating on middle-class decision-making, and it is almost universally described as a necessity rather than a choice. The eighth expense is the one that subscription economics has turned into the most invisible wealth drain of the modern era. The accumulation of subscription services that individually cost almost nothing and collectively cost a significant portion of discretionary income. The average American household subscribes to 4 to 5 streaming services at approximately $15 per month each. That is $60 to $75 per month on entertainment streaming alone. Add software subscriptions, music streaming, news subscriptions, fitness apps, meal planning services, cloud storage upgrades, and the dozens of other recurring charges that modern digital life accumulates almost automatically. And the total monthly subscription burden for a typical middle-class household frequently exceeds $200 to $300 per month. That is $2,400 to $3,600 per year. leaving your account in amounts too small to trigger conscious attention, never appearing as a single line item large enough to prompt reconsideration, compounding invisibly across years in which you have forgotten you subscribed to half of them. The subscription model was engineered specifically to exploit the psychological reality that small recurring charges below the threshold of conscious attention are never canceled. And the middle class, which adopted subscription services faster than any other demographic, is paying the full cost of that psychological exploitation every month. The ninth expense is the one that sounds the most like self-improvement. Gym memberships, wellness subscriptions, and health optimization products that are used inconsistently or not at all. The fitness industry generates approximately $100 billion annually in the United States. Approximately 67% of gym members never use their membership, according to industry data that the fitness industry prefers not to publicize. The average gym membership costs approximately $50 per month. The average member who does not use their membership pays $600 per year for access to a facility they visit fewer than twice annually. This is not an argument against fitness or wellness investment. It is an argument for honest accounting of what is actually being purchased versus what is being imagined. A used set of dumbbells and a free YouTube fitness channel produces identical health outcomes to a $50 monthly gym membership for the vast majority of users. The premium is not purchasing better health. It is purchasing the intention of better health, which is a luxury product regardless of how it feels in January. The 10th expense is the one that the finance industry has made feel like responsibility. Professional financial advice paid for through asset-based fees on portfolios that would perform better in low-cost index funds. A financial advisor charging 1% of assets under management on a $500,000 portfolio earns $5,000 per year from that account. Over 20 years at 7% market returns, the compounding cost of that 1% fee exceeds $150,000 extracted from your retirement account. The SPIVA data shows that 92% of actively managed funds underperform their benchmark index over 15 years. The advisor, selecting from those funds and charging 1% for the selection, is extracting a fee for a service that the data shows produces worse outcomes than the free alternative of buying the index directly. Financial guidance is genuinely valuable in specific circumstances. Tax optimization, estate planning, insurance structuring, and major life transition decisions benefit from professional expertise. But asset-based fees on standard investment portfolios are a luxury product, disguised as professional necessity by an industry whose revenue depends on that disguise remaining intact. The 11th expense is the one that parents feel the most guilt about questioning. Every extracurricular activity, tutoring program, enrichment class, and educational supplement that the middle-class child consumption market has identified as necessary for competitive childhood development. The extracurricular industrial complex in modern developed economies is a genuinely recent phenomenon. A generation ago, children played outside and learned instruments at the local music school. Today, the middle-class child is scheduled from school dismissal to bedtime with activities whose cumulative annual cost can exceed $10,000 to $20,000 per child. Sports leagues with travel tournaments, specialized coaching and equipment requirements, test preparation services for examinations that research suggests are minimally impacted by commercial preparation courses, language immersion programs, coding boot camps, and enrichment curricula that overlap significantly with what a motivated child can access for free through public library systems and online resources. The research on the relationship between extracurricular activity intensity and life outcomes is not nearly as supportive of the investment as the industry selling the activities implies. What the research consistently shows is that parental involvement and household stability are far stronger predictors of child outcomes than the specific activities purchased. The activities are not the variable, the parenting is, and parenting does not require a $10,000 annual extracurricular budget to be exceptional. The 12th expense is the one with the most powerful cultural reinforcement system ever assembled around a consumption behavior. Lifestyle signaling through clothing, accessories, home furnishings, and social experiences purchased to communicate status rather than to serve function. Every human society in recorded history has had status signaling mechanisms. The Roman patrician class wore togas with purple borders. The Victorian middle class displayed ornamental china they never used. The modern middle class buys brands, experiences, and home aesthetics that communicate arrival to a peer group that is simultaneously doing the same thing. The economic consequence of status signaling is not the individual purchase. It is the ongoing maintenance cost of a lifestyle identity that requires continuous investment to sustain. A luxury handbag purchased once is an expensive decision. A wardrobe, a home, a social life, and a set of consumer habits organized around the consistent communication of a status level you have not yet financially achieved is a systematic wealth destruction mechanism operating every day across every spending category simultaneously. Thomas Stanley's research on actual millionaires found that the majority of genuinely wealthy people in America are not the people who look wealthy. They are the people who prioritize becoming wealthy over looking wealthy. And those two goals are in direct financial competition with each other for every dollar of discretionary income across every year of your working life. Now here is what connects all 12 of these expenses. They are not 12 separate decisions. They are one decision made 12 different ways. The decision to prioritize the appearance and feeling of a certain lifestyle over the financial reality that lifestyle is consuming. Each expense feels justified in isolation. Each expense is defensible in conversation. Each expense is what people around you are doing, which is precisely what makes the pattern so difficult to see from inside it. But the forensic record of household wealth accumulation across every developed economy is unambiguous. The households that build genuine wealth across a working lifetime are not the households that earn the most. They are the households that systematically convert the gap between income and necessary expenses into productive assets. And necessary expenses are far fewer than the middle class has been taught to believe. The car payment is not necessary. Reliable transportation is. The premium smartphone cycle is not necessary. Communication is. The specialty grocery markup is not necessary. Nutrition is. The full coverage insurance portfolio is not necessary. Catastrophic risk protection is. The private school tuition is not necessary. Quality education is. The financed vacation is not necessary. Rest and experience are. The maximum mortgage is not necessary. Shelter is. The subscription accumulation is not necessary. Entertainment is. The unused gym membership is not necessary. Health is. The asset-based advisory fee is not necessary. Financial guidance is. The extracurricular industrial complex is not necessary. Child development is. The status signaling consumption is not necessary. Community belonging is. In every case, the genuine need is real and legitimate. The specific product the middle class has been sold to meet that need is the luxury. And the difference between the genuine need and the premium product, multiplied across 12 expense categories, compounded across 40 working years, is the entire wealth gap. It was never about earning more. It was always about understanding the difference between what you need and what you have been convinced you need. That distinction is the entire ballgame. It always has been. Subscribe, because the patterns are accelerating and the next lesson from history is already in motion.